want to say this without it coming across negative. There is a lot more spoon feeding, I think, in Japan to the audience. There's a common metric that is used in the commercial world, and that is the 80-year-old Oba-chan in the living room, only half paying attention to the TV, going to understand what is being communicated?
Interesting.
Whereas a Western audience, I mean, one of the key, I assume it's the same in marketing, but in film production, or especially commercial film production, you don't want to underestimate the audience. You don't want to make fun of the audience or keep the audience, or underestimate the audience's intelligence, because then they just feel like you're insulting them. Mm-hmm. So if you've got, for example, I saw, who is the Godin marketing guy? Seth Godin. Yeah. So I think it was Seth Godin who did a presentation, and he puts an apple on the screen, and then he writes the word apple underneath, and he says, "Don't do this. Pick one. If you're going to show him the apple, show him the apple. If you're going to write the word apple, write the word apple. But don't treat your audience like they're infants by putting both of those on the screen." And I think that in Japan there is a tendency to want to absolutely make sure that something is conveyed beyond any kind of chance. And so there is a lot less is left up to chance.
Interesting, because I can imagine this really affects the creative process of how you could convey the message in many, many different ways, right? Because you need to, a subtle message won't work anymore.
So there was a funny circumstance when we were editing a film for Nike, and there was this baseball star who was talking about how great his haircut is, and he's bald. Like, he doesn't have hair. And that in itself was joke enough to the Westerners involved in the project. But to the Japanese, they wanted somebody to tsukomu. They wanted somebody to acknowledge that he didn't have hair. Like somebody to say, like, but he's bald. So ultimately, in the commercial, there was somebody who was acknowledging that the guy was bald.
It's kind of giving the cue to laugh, right?
Giving the cue to laugh, exactly. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it would have registered if you didn't have that. Or maybe it would have been confusing. And I think that's something that we build up over the course of generations. It's not something that you can just initiate and say, "Hey, this is the way that we're going to do comedy because it's the way that we do it in America, and that's better." And so introducing a new way of doing things it can take time, and I have experienced that with my co-conspirators here in Japan.
So back to creativity, it is necessary to maybe work with Japanese and really establish an understanding of the culture if you want to do this kind of creative work here and convey a message to a Japanese audience. Because from a Western perspective, it might be very hard to read through the lines and know where do you give the cue to laugh.
Absolutely.